welcome to you to today's events. Very happy to have all of you. I think that you have probably all been drinking from fire hoses over the last few days, and today is going to be no different. I'd like to say that they've left the best for last, but it has been a very amazing couple of days so far, and we're only hoping to add to that today. To get started with that, we have our kickoff from Julie Klaus, who is the director of the SBA here in San Francisco. And one of the things that I love about Julie is that, true leadership shows up in a time of crisis. And earlier this year, when we had the economic injury loans, in addition to the PPP, she was absolutely out in front with her team, communicating everything that was going on. It was such a time of crisis economically for all of us. And it just seems like every webinar that I was on several, as many of us were trying to figure out how to carve a path forward. She was there for many of them. And I thought at one point she was probably triplets, because she was really all over trying to communicate, create transparency, and really aid all the businesses in moving forward. And so I couldn't be happier to have her kicking us off today. And with that, I'll go ahead and let Julie take over the stage.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate those remarks. I just want to say good morning to everybody, and thank you to Adaptable Security, the whole conference committee, and all the supporters for the invitation to come speak with you today. So there's a lot to talk about in 2020, right? There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think we've all felt that anxiety and the fear and maybe even some depression at times. So I really wanted to take this time to focus on something positive, right? And look at small businesses and how we can help lead the way through this economic recession. And I think one of those ways is through innovation. So the pandemic that we're in is a new challenge, right? But economic recovery is not. We've been down this path before, albeit this time it feels a little different and there's a lot more uncertainty. But we can look at recent history to show us what is possible. Some changes are a result of necessity, but then there's also opportunity. So I'm not going to make this an economics discussion. I am not an economist. But if we do look back at the Great Recession in 2007, generally speaking, the small businesses did suffer initially greater losses, whether that's revenue, jobs, and other economic indicators. They suffered those losses sooner than their larger firms, but they also recovered faster. And small businesses, as we know, drive local employment, but they also drive innovation. Patent filings at that same period of time also started declining rapidly in 2007 for small businesses. But in 2009, they started rebounding, and small businesses were filing at a faster rate than larger companies. So I think it's important for us to remember, companies like Apple didn't start out as Apple. It was some guys tinkering in a garage just trying to bring their vision to life. Small business innovation. So there is certainly no minimizing the challenges that businesses are facing right now. But I do want to take this time to champion the future, to champion hope and optimism. We know the future will be different, and therein lies the opportunity. Conditions are ripe for innovation. Nearly every industry has had to find a way to adapt and do things a little differently this year in order to just survive. There was everything from sending your employees home to telework and trying to make sure everybody's connected and functioning, to maybe applying for some of that emergency funding from the government, navigating those waters, or to maybe creating your online presence. Perhaps you've never been online and the pandemic forced you to create a website and learn how to take orders online. But we all know small businesses drive innovation in this country because they're creative, they are nimble and responsive. And responsive is one of the reasons why I think small businesses can survive the effects of COVID. Very early in this pandemic, many small businesses sought to become part of the solution. And I just think that's inherent in the DNA of small businesses. Although they were suffering themselves, they still wanted to help their community and people less fortunate than themselves. I saw everything from efforts or programs to buy a cup of coffee for a healthcare worker to providing that toilet paper with your takeout. I saw a sense of community and collaboration and sharing like I haven't really seen before. I think some of this is probably attributable to technology and platforms like this, where we're able to connect and share information more easily than before. And as Kevin alluded to, I was even able to get out and I could talk to my businesses in Santa Cruz, and then later that afternoon talk to the businesses in Del Norte. So that's one of the benefits, is being able to share and communicate much more easily and readily. But when this pandemic first hit and the shelter-in-place orders forced most of our businesses to close overnight, the first need was survival, right? The conversations were just about that emergency funding. How do I pay my employees? How do I pay my rent? How do I just keep myself afloat until I can start earning revenue again? Then we all realized the virus is going to continue impacting our lives for a much longer period of time. We started to see more of a mental shift. Businesses pivot and start to adapt in the best way that they could. But now, as we are experiencing lifestyle changes and new business operating norms, we're starting to see new innovation, ideas beyond just meeting our essential needs, right? New ways to think about accomplishing our respective goals. One, I think, in the moment example of innovation that I loved was the gentleman who quickly developed an app to automate calling California's EDD department when the phone lines were so jammed, right? And he became an entrepreneur overnight, developed a great little tool and started selling it to others who had similar problems they needed to solve. So while we have a need for new ways to interact, but we also have needs that we probably don't even realize yet. And that's where the great innovation is going to come from. So how do we engage and help our small businesses and soon-to-be entrepreneurs to launch their new ideas? They need resources and support. This is a challenge not only for us at SBA, but also for our local community leaders and industries at large. We know one thing, that it takes a collaborative effort to build a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation. So let's quickly look at two major categories: funding and support programs. So funding. So PPP loans certainly grabbed the media headlines, but that's not the only program that's available from SBA or other federal agencies. And it often wasn't even the best fit for many businesses. So right now, my tip for businesses, any businesses, whether you're in an innovation startup or whether you're a smaller, mom and pop type business, start evaluating your financial needs today and look through the next 2 to 3 years, because your funding needs are probably going to change and evolve over that time period. Research now the best match for your funding need and the type of funding available. Financing is only going to become a little bit more challenging, but there's lots of different resources out there. Whether you're looking at, is venture capital the right fit for you? Is a line of credit, term loans, equity crowdfunding? We could go on with the types of financing. But find the resources and start doing your homework now. I do believe in history has shown that when there's more challenging economic times, SBA's loan guarantee programs become more active. The banks like to reduce their risk. But we are right now still seeing investors investing as well. So depending on what your specific needs might be, you should explore the options and try to figure out the best fit, and so you can start today to position yourself appropriately. Oh, and because of the themes of this week, I would be remiss if I didn't spend a few moments talking about SBA's SBIR, that's Small Business Innovation Research, and STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer Programs. So while many of you participating this week, those are probably not new programs for you, but I also want to put another twist on there and throw out food for thought for some of our local governments. We know that our local governments are having very tight budgets, but they're still going to want to support their small business community and innovation and local needs. So I'm encouraging some of the local governments to take a look at some of these federal programs, not that they're going to apply themselves, but to see what is the federal government looking for, and does this match or align with some of your local needs or what your local industry base can support? And perhaps there's ways to build off some of these federal programs. This is SBIR, but it also things like our Federal State Technology Program, SBA's Accelerator, and the other competitions that we sponsor throughout the year. These are great opportunities to leverage local precious resources with federal dollars. But for the small businesses out there looking for some seed funding, especially if you have an innovation or an idea, the federal government, as you know, has R&D needs. Small businesses are well positioned to meet those needs. And the goal of SBIR is to not only help the government solve a problem, but also turn that innovation into a commercially viable product or service. There are 3 phases of funding to help you do so, everything from idea conception all the way into commercialization. So one way to illustrate the effects or what this program can really do, I think, is to talk about a success story. And it's a company you probably have all heard of. It's called iRobot. The Department of Defense years ago had a need for battlefield robots to sweep the area. They're gathering information, detecting bombs. The commercialization led to a device that sweeps your floor, the Roomba. So this program is highly competitive, but SBA also has resources to help. For example, here in Northern California, our SBDC network has a specialized program called Tech Futures that helps technology companies create successful SBIR bids, among their other resources. And data shows that companies that use these resources have a much higher success rate. So if you're interested in learning more about these programs, because we could spend all day on that, I do encourage you to look at the website, sbir.gov, and you can find out what opportunities are available. You can also look at data and information on past awards, and you can also find assistance near you, no matter where you may be located in the United States. There's SBA-funded nonprofit programs like accelerators and the federal state technology partnership programs that support businesses in this area. I also want to talk a few minutes about business advising services, the support programs we have. I know on the next panel, you're going to be introduced to some of our support services, like our free business advising and mentoring available from our partners, SCORE, the Small Business Development Center, Women's Business Center, and Veterans Business Outreach Centers. This is free business advising is a good idea for any business. So whether you're that startup that's trying to navigate and figure out how to launch your business and find funding, to those more experienced businesses that are looking for new opportunities and growth strategies. There are thousands of advisors across the country that offer a lot of expertise. A lot of them have very industry specific or subject matter specific expertise that are there to help you address your needs. So if you do nothing else, I do recommend that small businesses schedule an appointment with their local business advisor to talk about their future strategy and receive some feedback. And then one quick moment, given the themes of this week, I also wanted to throw out a topic of cybersecurity. So a very important topic. Obviously we could, and we do spend days talking about cybersecurity, but for small businesses, I do want to highlight that SBA does have some educational resources in this area. And it is something that I think we keep having to repeat with small businesses. A lot of them think that, oh, if I'm not a tech firm, I don't really have cybersecurity concerns. But we know that all businesses have a role in cybersecurity. All people have a role in cybersecurity. So whether businesses realize it or not, they do need to pay attention to this area. It can be things from the obvious, protecting their customer information or credit card transaction, but also protecting their employees' information and their own personal information. And now, more than ever, we've seen a lot of businesses pivot to go online. So if the online tools are maybe new to you, you do have a new layer of data that you're collecting through online, appointments or selling. So this cybersecurity is becoming more and more important of a topic for you to think about and become educated upon. And as we know, cybersecurity and data preparation also walk hand in hand. As we've seen just from this year, disasters come in all shapes and sizes and often without warning. And those of you that are interested in pursuing Department of Defense contracts that have anything to do with government systems or data, you have to have a cybersecurity plan. So if you are a socially and economically disadvantaged business owner, we have free modular training curriculum that will help you understand all the NIST requirements and how you develop your plan to compete on Department of Defense contracts. So in closing, I just wanted to say, for all you small businesses out there, to help drive this economic recovery, I urge you to tap into the resources available to you to help you pivot, to compete, and to grow. We want you to use your talents and your creativity to innovate, but let us help you along that path.
Thank you, Julie. Absolutely wonderful seeing you again. Always enjoy hearing you speak, and couldn't be more happy that you joined us today and shared those words. You know, we are looking at very tough economic times, and having someone like you in a very important driver's seat couldn't be more helpful. And just thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today and being a part of this. You know, there are going to be some other speakers throughout the day that are affiliated and associated and helping with the work that you do, but absolutely happy to have your leadership here to get us started off.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.